Hello, I'm Ford Windstar, and welcome to the Director's Chair. Today my guest is Tim Ritter. Now, true addicts of contemporary B-movie culture will genuflect at the mention of Tim Ritter's name. As the creative force behind contemporary horror cult classics including the Truth or Dare series or the grisly features Creep and Killing Spree, Ritter has been terrifying and entertaining audience with his intense, envelope-pushing approach to filmmaking that liberally mixes pulse-banging suspense with unapologetic violence. If Alfred Hitchcock and Herschel Gordon Lewis had their genes spliced together, the result would easily be Tim Ritter. Born on a Friday the 13th back in 1967, Ritter was still in high school when he scripted, directed, and edited his first feature, a 1984 Super 8mm production called Day of the Reaper. He followed up Day of the Reaper by co-directing the video anthology Twisted Illusions in 1985, and wrote and directed, although without director credit, the first installment of the Truth or Dare series. And that introduced one of the most popular serial killers to slash his way across the screen, the copper-masked Madman. Throughout the 80s and 90s, Ritter helmed his own productions, including Wicked Games and Screaming for Sanity, and also served a variety of functions on other works, including stints as writer, editor, second unit director, narrator, and even creative consultant. In the 21st century, Ritter has turned his attention to creating a variety of new projects, including books and movies. His novels include The Hammer Will Fall in 2000 and Unreal in 2004. His latest productions, Truth or Dare 4 Deadly Dares and Switchblade Insane, a portion of the High 8 Horror Independent 8 film, are both produced through his company SRU Ventures LLC. So we have Tim Ritter with us today, and we're going to ask him a few questions here in the Director's Chair. So Tim, can you tell me, when did you first start getting into films?
Well, actually, probably as a little kid. It would be probably in 1978. My father had Super 8 movie cameras laying around, and I just kind of gravitated towards, utilizing those. So maybe 75. And then also before that, I'd been in a friend of mine across the street, Joel Weinkoop. He was making Super 8 movies, and I was in a couple of those and just kind of caught the film bug at a very young age. So.
It's very contagious. So.
Yes.
Well, that brings us to what was the first project that you did direct, and what did you learn from that first experience?
The first little project I made was a Super 8 movie, and I was very much into like Superman action movies, the 78 Superman, of course, and Pink Panther movies. And it was called Super Panther, and it was about kind of a mixture, hybrid of Superman, Pink Panther, a klutzy Superman type of character. So it was like a 4-minute short, and it's where I got the first thing, and what I learned was framing, how to utilize music in with pictures, and just kind of learning by doing, just as a little kid.
Do you have a copy of this? Can we see that?
It is somewhere. It's probably in a box somewhere.
Super 8 tape?
Super 8, yeah. It'd probably have to be transferred over to today's technology.
I want to see that. I want to see Super Panther.
Super Panther.
Pretty exciting for me too. So, well, now you have Twisted Illusions as your own production company. So, what made you decide to actually come up with your own production company?
Well, when we incorporated Twisted Illusions in Florida back in probably 1985, the whole reason behind that was, of course, we wanted to make professional motion pictures. And in order to do that, you had to set up limited partnerships, get film insurance. To do anything business-wise, you just had to have an incorporation. So it was just part of the what I call the red tape process of making films, and it was learn by doing. Get a lawyer to set this up, accountants, and all that kind of thing. And again, it's even today, if you're going to do anything professional or semi-professional, you've got to have at least an incorporation or an LLC. Everybody's using the limited liability companies these days because it's easier to set those up for all your insurance needs, or however you want to funnel your funds for financing through for production. So
now I presume that's probably your favorite part about filmmaking is to be creative with red tape.
Yeah, the red tape,
filling out forms and hiring lawyers. That sounds exciting. So.
Yeah, it's a part of it. Of course, not my favorite part, and you really got to have somebody who knows what they're doing and likes to do that kind of stuff. And a lot of times you just end up doing that kind of stuff because you got to just. Because there is no one else to do it, but sometimes, but it is really cool if you have somebody who enjoys that kind of stuff, a Lawrence Bender type for, Quentin Tarantino, that type of person who takes care of the the business while you do the creative stuff. But a lot of people are comfortable doing both. But myself, it just depends on the project and the budget. Whether how extensively involved I get with that.
Hiring those line item budget producers is really nice if you have the money
Yes,
for it. Yeah,
it's best just to stay creative if possible. But you do what you got to do.
Well, speaking of creativity, when you first wrote The Truth or Dare, did you envision it becoming a cult classic, or in fact a franchise? I know we have at least 4 now, and then the potential for a 5th in the works. So, did you see this all coming?
Well, I mean, being a diehard horror fan of Friday the 13th series and Nightmare on Elm Street series, and that was the era when this, the original Truth or Dare was created, was in that 80s era where franchises started to catch on. In the back of my mind, I had hoped that it would become, a larger franchise, but, I feel pretty blessed that it's become kind of a, direct-to-video, micro-budget franchise that's, been going now for 25, 26 years, 27 years, something like that since 86. So, it was something that I hoped for, but, you just never know. So, but definitely was in the back of my mind when I wrote the original script, even before we rolled cameras on it. They had asked for a sequel, so that was in mind for the original investors. So it was pretty cool. So
fantastic. Well, it's well documented that one of the Backstreet Boys was in Truth or Dare. Now, did you previously know him, or was he cast through an agent, or?
He just came through. We did an open casting call, and we used casting agents in West Palm Beach and Jupiter and Miami, and he was just one of the many people that came forward. I think his mom brought him into the casting process, and of course at that time nobody knew who he was, and he was just another actor trying to as a little kid actor trying to get involved in things, and I did not know him at that time, and of course there was no way to tell that he was gonna be very successful later on. But he was actually very professional, really good, and he was, as a very young director myself, 17, 18 years old back then, he was like the easiest one to direct. He was the most professional. I had trouble controlling all the other little kids during the Truth. As a matter of fact, it's really chopped up in the movie, the little kids, because they were so misbehaved, and I was like going, sit down, dude, what's going? But he was very, he was taking the razor blade, going, and doing all the stuff, right on cue. So he really had the discipline and the drive to, do what he did, and I'm glad he was successful.
Fantastic. I think that's kind of what, that sort of professional attention is what it takes on that level.
The drive and the determination, take it seriously.
But now, do you know how many films that you've directed? Can you give us a quick count? Do you have any idea?
Probably somewhere between 16 and 20. Various movies in various capacities, whether it's collaborations, co-directing, anthologies, that type of thing. Somewhere in there probably, but maybe 12 full features.
And do you have a favorite that you've done?
Favorite movie? Well, I mean, I'm pretty fond of Wicked Games Truth or Dare Part 2, which was made in 1993 or 4, somewhere in that area. I think we started shooting in 92, but it was just the process of, after dealing with 2 movies with 16 millimeter celluloid and all that stuff, and it was the process of actually getting the prosumer video equipment and controlling it more myself and being able to film it, and just felt more like you had more control over everything, and it was just a really fun group of people down in Florida. The Palm Beach Shakespeare Festival, believe it or not, got involved with that film, and it was just kind of, it's a nostalgia to me. The movie came out, it's got 2 different cuts, as a matter of fact. The snuff edition, which came out about 10 years ago, which is a real favorite in Germany, but that whole movie was just a really cool experience. It was just fun learning how to use the equipment and directing the actors. A very, very intimate experience for everybody, I think. It felt like you were really doing something.
Well, I hate to do this, but we talked about your favorite film. Do you have a least favorite that you?
Least favorite movie. Well, I mean, probably the one I had the most trouble with is partly because I was just starting out and I was very young. Was probably Truth or Dare, with just a lot of creative conflicts. I mean, by the end of it, I was pretty frustrated, and any movie I found as an artist, when you have more money, you have more people kind of trying to
too many cooks in the kitchen there,
taking you in different directions and giving you their ideas, and you got to find this balance where, and I'm sure anybody who's had any kind of budget's probably dealt with that before. So sometimes with like Wicked Games was a combination of my own money and some venture capitalists who went out of business in the middle of it, so I had more creative control over everything. I mean, there's nothing. I mean, movies are collaborative for sure. So, but it just sometimes you just get people who are just pulling in a different direction, and that's what happened at Truth or Dare at the end. You had the investors going one way and other people going the other way, and everybody was just trying to figure out, which direction to go in. So,
Well, I'm glad it didn't discourage you from continuing.
it should have, but it didn't.
All right, so on the same sort of what's your favorite this or that genre, do you have a favorite actor that you've worked with? And just because I'm here, you don't have to say.
Ford.
No, you don't have to say that.
No, I mean, all the people I've worked with in Kentucky have been excellent, yourself included, very dedicated and passionate to the craft, and that's what you need. You need like-minded individuals to do this. And of course, I can't forget my friend Joel D. Winecoop, who I started out with. He's always excellent to work with. And Wicked Games, again, Patricia Paul, she was fun to work with. When I did Creep, Kathy Willits was actually really, really, really fun to work with. People always ask me how it was to work with her. And it was, she was very professional, very, very cool. Came to the set prepared, and that's what you want. You just want people you can bounce ideas off of. And I love it when people are good at improvising and stuff. Because I mean, I never stick directly to the script. I love it when they add something of themselves, or in the heat of the moment, like you'll add a line or something, and that's always just really makes the fun, spontaneous and fun, and just a good collaborative experience for everybody.
Absolutely. Now, if you could look through all the genre of films that you've seen and experienced over the course of not just your career but and before, could you say what your influences were?
Growing up, probably Wes Craven, Last House on the Left, the 72 version, George Romero, Night of the Living Dead, John Carpenter's Halloween and Escape from New York, that kind of stuff. So I guess I'm a product of the mid-70s, early 70s and 80s slasher movies really affected me. But no, really 70s and 80s movies, Wes Craven, John Carpenter, of course Herschel Gordon Lewis, John Waters, I really got into, and those kind of individuals early on. I really was like a student of early exploitation movies in the 70s and 80s and the slasher.
Have you ever thought about doing a John Waters style horror musical?
Horror music? Not yet. You never know, though.
Well, maybe off camera we should talk about that.
That would be cool.
More. Yeah. So, of all these projects you've done, what's been the most challenging scene, or maybe not the whole film, but just the most challenging scene for you to shoot? Do you have something that you would speak to that was the...
Well, there's always challenges and there's never enough money. I mean, you hear that from people who have, $100 million budgets. We didn't have enough money, but when you're doing the micro budget stuff, I mean, I've worked with budgets from $300 to $350,000 budgets, but money is always, money and time for, different things are always an issue. But probably one of the most challenging scenes I filmed were the explosive scenes in the original Truth or Dare, just laying those out with the pyrotechnic guys. There were safety issues. We had traffic blocked off. There was just, and again, these guys were really professional. Bob Shelley out of Atlanta, he's still in business. He worked on Code of Silence, Ghostbusters, but just doing those, making sure that they're safe, and the storyboards and all this, sequences were captured that you needed, and when we had cars smashing up to each other, and all kinds of stuff like that. So that was a big challenge, and I had like a big sheet of storyboards that we had written out that we were trying to go by. And again, when you have police and fire trucks and paramedics and all that kind of stuff, and crowd control with police officers, all that was very, very, it was a big challenge for couple days of shooting. And there was another scene very similar to that with a shed that we blew up that was pretty challenging for back in the day. There's a whole documentary on that that's probably on YouTube, Celluloid Carnage, Making Truth or Dare, where all those shots are documented of what we did on those days. So.
Now, speaking to that, the explosions and cops and whatnot, I know a lot of your graphic scenes have actually appear to be filmed in public. Now, have you had any fallout from that? Any sort of response to some of these more graphic issues in public?
Yeah, unfortunately, we've had many run-ins with law enforcement, especially when we were doing stuff down in Florida. We staged a liquor store robbery when we were doing a Super 8 movie once, and we cleared it with the owner, and we had a guy in a stocking mask running out with a fake gun and everything, and a passerby saw what was going on. Of course, they didn't know that we were just doing a fake robbery, and the guy was running out of the store, and we found ourselves surrounded by a SWAT team with giant 12-gauge shotguns and got hauled down to the jail cell where our parents had to pick us up. So that's the way things kind of started out in the early Super 8 days. And graduating further, Creep, we had Joel Winecoop Again, we had cars smashed up that we'd put together from a junkyard, and Hollywood smoke cookie coming up and smoke coming everywhere. Joel he was playing Angus Lynch, the prisoner escaping from that, and he was in this orange garb running around, and we had a guy in a cop uniform chasing him and everything, and people were driving by and seeing us running after this guy, even though it was like camera equipment and everything, and they thought we were actually trying to get this guy. So suddenly we had all these people running after him as well, tackling him and trying to get this guy. And we're like, oh no, we're doing a movie here. So as you go along, you learn, put up signs and that kind of stuff. While we're filming Truth or Dare in a public place, so we actually had cars that were bumping into each other and sliding into poles and everything, and one of them slid into this pole, and that we knew that was going to happen when the cars made impact. What we didn't realize was that there was a electrical box on top of the pole, and the transformer blew out when the car hit because of all the flames, because it exploded on cue, and it knocked out all the power in the neighborhood, which just happened to be the mayor's neighborhood as well. So he was very unhappy that this crazy film crew was out there, causing traffic jams and mayhem, taking away his electricity. And we were also shooting in a state park for Ransom for Kevin Lindemuth, a science fiction movie. And Joel Wynkoop had like a laser gun, and it was just me beneath him doing a low angle looking up, and he had just a fake laser gun, but from a distance it looked real. And when you know it, somebody thought that he was some kind of guy trying to kill me or get me to commit suicide or something. And again, we found ourselves surrounded by all these park officials with their guns, and we got hauled in again. Where's your permits? What are you doing? And actually, Joel nearly got shot because they said freeze, and he turned around with the gun, and he was like, "No, drop the gun!" And of course, it's just a piece of plastic. But we had, unfortunately, many close calls in public places. And I remember another time when we were shooting Ransom, Joel had a long wig that he kind of looked like Ozzy Osbourne in the role with this trench coat on the beach, and everybody was like, "What are you guys doing?" And then I told everybody we were shooting an Ozzy Osbourne video, so everybody was like in between takes trying to get his autograph on the beach. So that was kind of a funnier one. So
fantastic.
Many crazy things in public places, but now these days you try to avoid that, especially in this day and age, because it's very easy to get law enforcement comes up, and they really don't know what you're doing, so you want to clear all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, of all these, we've talked about a lot of the fun scenes and the dangerous scenes and the scenes that have had this impacts. Now, do you have a favorite of something you filmed? A favorite scene you filmed?
Favorite scene?
And you don't have to say anything from Switchblade Insane. And
right. Anything that you were in. Everything you were in, definitely.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. But
I agree. It's fantastic.
I mean, one of my favorite scenes is again from Wicked Games, because it was such a fun movie to make. And I liked the little bit where the actress goes into the bathroom. This is kind of like a little thing on Psycho. And to give a spoiler,
Spoiler alert, folks.
Spoiler alert here. The killer is actually waiting for her in the bathtub, in the shower, and she opens it up. So it just kind of leads up. You're always expecting the killer to come into the bathroom and do the deed. And this was kind of and at that time, I'd never seen anything like that. I'm sure by now it's probably been done in a few movies, but that scene, just the way it was kind of drawn out,
the reversal, and
right, with with very limited budget and low budget, that's the kind of stuff that I like to do, and try to come up with a clever twist on things. But I always thought that was pretty cool myself.
Fantastic. Now, you're a writer, director, editor, any number of hats that you wear in the course of filmmaking. Now, do you have a favorite hat to wear? Is it writer? Is it director? Is it DP? What do you like to do? What's your favorite part?
I like to shoot, the video stuff, and I enjoy directing, and but probably the favorite's writing and editing, because there's a lot less coordination of time, because when you got to do other things and everything, it's just a lot less hectic as far as the stress levels. But everything is important for sure.
Well, and those are both solo sort of occupations.
Right. And
you don't have to worry about whether someone else is fed or,
Right.
happy or comfortable or whatever.
Coordinating everybody's
providing
schedules.
the best performance or whatever. But at that point, it's all sort of in your hands. So
yeah,
I can completely understand that.
So those two parts are my favorite when everything comes.
With all the newest filming technology, you can essentially film a movie on your cell phone. How do you feel about the way that the technology's changed over the 25, 30 years you've been making film?
Well, I mean, it's good, for people that want to break into the, industry and want to just start. And my recommendation is always, just start doing stuff. But I mean, the process is still the same. You still need to have a good script. You still need to have a story. You still need to have storyboard. You still need to assemble your cast and actors and special effects and all that kind of stuff. So the the heavy duty stuff is still the same. It's still the same process, but the technology is really, really cool. I mean, there's kids that are doing stuff probably better than I do now at age 8 or 9.
Whoa.
So but I mean, yeah, because they're growing up with this insane technology.
What's a technological world,
So it's pretty cool. So, but I mean, it's great for people who want to kind of paint with the materials. It's very inexpensive to get started. So.
Well, speaking of expense and technology, one of the big things now is online fundraising, to use a crowdsourcing option. That's the way they kind of do it now. How were you able to do, like, say, finance a film like the original Truth or Dare? What did you do at that point? Before there was the internet, before you had Facebook, you couldn't tell anyone. How did you come up with that?
Well, you didn't know this, but the original Copper Mask was we robbed gas stations, and I went around and that's how we financed. No, just kidding.
The legal disclaimer, that didn't happen.
No, actually, that's what goes back to the incorporation question. Limited partnerships. Getting in your car, going around with a briefcase. You hit doctors, lawyers, investors, video store owners back in the day to invest in your movie. And you had a prospectus and a screenplay and a poster art and all that kind of stuff. You had to actually pound the pavement and go around kind of like delivering phone books or selling encyclopedias. And you go around and try to get money for this and then have the lawyer put up the limited partnership papers, and it was very, and with the case of Truth or Dare, we also had a distributor to help finance it. So that's
just, I guess, for the audience, I should say that phone books were a thing that's printed that has the listing of home phone numbers that everyone had before the invention of cell phones, and then beyond that, we talk about the home phone numbers as well as the whole idea of video stores. There was a place where you would actually go and rent video stores. Now we have these kiosks of certain sorts. So it's amazing that the way that just little things have changed. That you have to
the whole business.
An encyclopedia salesman. An encyclopedia was sort of like Wikipedia, but they were in books, and someone would come to your door with 50 of them and want to charge you $85 for that or something.
Man, you really dated me here.
Yeah, I know I'm having to translate. I'm dated as well.
I should be coming up in the carriage here. Little House on the Prairie.
Well, so speaking of expensive books that we're going to take door to door, are you writing any more books? Do you have anything else that you're penning right now? Do you have novels in the works?
I've got a few ideas and some stuff structurally done, so I hope to do another couple in the next few years. So it's something that's fun too. And again, as we just discussed, it's solitary and it's easier to coordinate that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
it's pretty cool.
Only your schedule's involved.
Right. So I hope to do a couple more soon.
Yeah. Well, I know a lot of the audience for this program would be people who are aspiring filmmakers. Do you have any advice that you would give to those filmmakers?
Well, again, as we just discussed with the technology, whatever you have access to, I always recommend just get out there and start making, your movies, and start with shorts, and just learn how to do every aspect of it, because every aspect from the PA all the way up to the director is very important. It's a very collaborative experience, and you will learn how to do it as you put stuff together and everything. So.
Absolutely. So tell me about the most interesting part. What is going on for Tim Ritter in the future? What are you working on now?
We just finished up Deadly Dares, the HD cut. That should be coming out in 2014 through SRS Cinema, and High 8, as you mentioned earlier, the anthology movie. Collaborated with a bunch of other really cool filmmakers on that. That should be coming out sometime in 2014 as well. So we got those, and then SRS Cinema continues to re-release our older stuff on VHS DVD combos with extras. So a lot of stuff actually going on. A lot of releases.
Well, and one of the things you just didn't mention that I've heard rumor and tale of is Truth or Dare 5.
Yes, and we have that possibility with Scott Tepperman that we're working with. We're working with him. He's a big Truth or Dare fan, and he really wants to, push this thing into production, and he's a really, really cool guy, and we're hoping to collaborate with him in 2014 on that as well.
Well, that's very exciting. I look forward to seeing all this. I still want to see some of the old stuff. I really am interested in Dirty Cop, No Donut.
And Super Panther.
And Super Panther. Super Panther and Dirty Cop, No Donut. Those Those are my wheelhouse. I'm excited to see
right.
those. I guess we're gonna have to raid your basement or something and
Yeah, we'll have to do that.
and find the tapes and
That's it. And
fax the
old
emails, as it were.
celluloid, Super 8 clips.
Yep. So I guess if if you don't have any more things to add at this point, we would walk out of here and call it the director's chair a day. Allow you to get back to this wonderful, marvelous work you're doing.
Cool. Well, thanks for having me on.
It's absolutely my pleasure. I'd like to thank everybody for joining us for the director's chair today. With the wonderful cult horror icon Tim Ritter. Can't really say enough how much he's influenced both home video and direct-to-video markets, as well as the horror industry itself, with his wonderful things. And we look forward to seeing much more from Tim in the future. And thank you all for joining us today. We hope to see you again soon.